Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. Welcome to UNCUT, a series of conversations with newsmakers and people who matter in our lives. We're particularly focusing on COVID-19. We're also focusing on confronting racism, an ongoing series we're doing. And we're pleased to be joined on UNCUT with Dr. Brian Strom, Chancellor of Rutgers Biomedical and Health Sciences and Executive Vice President of Health Affairs, Rutgers University. Brian, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Steve. Thank you for
Brian,
having me.
We had a separate conversation in which you talked all about the vaccine issues and herd immunity as it relates to COVID-19, but I want to pick up another theme here. The emotional and mental health, the anxiety, the depression. I know I threw everything all in one, but can you please do this? Help us put in perspective those aspects of COVID-19. A, how serious are they? And B, are we dealing with them as directly as we need to?
Great question. They're very serious. There's data that came out that 1/3 of the US population is now depressed, clinically depressed. Social isolation doesn't help. Everybody's locked in their houses, not interacting with people. One of my colleagues likes to use the term physical isolation rather than social isolation for that reason. But people are, like human contact. It's a big issue. There's enormous efforts underway to try to help. There's efforts underway to try to help the general public. Rutgers, for example, runs a call-in center, our poison control center, also runs the state center. Rutgers and RWJ-Barnabas together have put together an enormous number of ways to be able to help healthcare workers. Enormous problem with healthcare workers. We're watching people die in front of us. We're not used to that. We were asked for parking lot space for all the body bags because the number of people don't realize the enormous impact this has had on New Jersey. We as healthcare workers want to cure people. We don't want to watch them die. And we especially don't want to watch them die helplessly because we don't have any treatments without their family members around because they're isolated. So this is an enormous impact on the entire country, both because of the economics, and also because of the impact of the disease, and an enormous impact on healthcare workers who are the people we turn to help the rest of the country with this psychosocial problem.
You know, Dr. Strom, you and I had an offline conversation I want to carry online right now to this conversation. We happen to have two teenage boys, 16 and 17, one turning 16 when this will be seen, and 17. And I struggle with, and the only reason I'm talking about myself is because I know I'm representative of millions of other parents who struggle with this. They don't see it. Our kids don't see it. I am a pain in the neck. I am a nuisance. I am overly dramatic. I'm overly protective. Dad, not everyone's like you. Why am I saying this? It's because I'm scared to death. I'm scared to death for them, but also for myself. You turn 60, it'll do that to you. And my point is this. How do we talk to young people who, many of whom believe, what? Any sport they can play together, they can hang out together, they can be close together. Not a problem. But we don't want them cooped up, and they can't be because of all the mental health issues we just talked about and other things. I know it's a complicated question, but I know I speak for a lot of parents. Help us.
It's a very difficult problem because teenagers think they're invulnerable, but they're not. They're not invulnerable themselves. Fortunately, their risk of the disease is lower than those of us who are older, but it's not zero. And certainly there are people who have gotten sick. And as you allude to, their parents, their grandparents, their teachers, they can spread the disease to them as well. One thing we can do is people are beginning to talk about bubbles, healthcare bubbles, that where you already have household bubbles right now, where you and your kids are staying isolated by themselves. Are there people you can broaden the bubble with? That you can say, let's pick one or two of their friends whose families are being equally protective as you are. Ideally, test everybody beforehand. And then you guys can spend time socializing with each other.
Do that part, test everyone beforehand, because we're not, our 16-year-old had some friends over the other day. I wanted one or two. Of course, there were 4. And we're not testing. Like, how do we do that without being so overly obsessive that it's unhealthy?
Yeah, well, again, if you're all in a bubble together with your kids' friends, then they don't have to be tested every time.
But we're not. They came over for the first time after many months, which I know we're doing this in the mid-July, it'll be June, it'll be seen after that. More and more people are going outside the bubble. What's the danger there?
There's an enormous danger. We are going to have increased number of cases. New Jersey has handled this extremely well, extremely well. Our cases are dropping to almost zero, but that's not true in the rest of the country. And that's going to infect us in the state. It's going to be more of a problem as people go to the shore and people mix intermediate. There's no way to prevent. This virus is with us for probably a few more years.
A few more years, Dr. Strom.
Yeah.
But if the vaccine, say it comes out at the end of the year, the beginning of 2021, then how could you say for, quote, a few years?
Because best case, there is a vaccine, and there's 130 candidates, to be clear.
Right.
Best case, there's a candidate, there's a vaccine that works early in 21. 3/4 of the population is needed for herd immunity. There's 4 billion people in the world. How long is it gonna take to produce and then give the vaccine to 3 billion people? And then how about the people who refuse to take the vaccine? As part of it? Oh yeah, there's a large anti-vaxxer movement out there.
Even in the age of COVID-19?
Even in the age of COVID-19, as crazy as it seems. I remember there's a lot of people out there, including politically, who are not necessarily supporters of science. I mean, be clear, our president doesn't wear a mask.
Should he?
So, of course he should. He absolutely should be wearing a mask. Even if he's with nobody else, just as a role model to be able to show people the importance of wearing a mask. And so, yes, there are vaccine refusers. There are diseases that we cannot develop a vaccine to. And it is possible this might be one of them. We're hoping it's not true, but we don't even know yet that antibodies are protective against the disease. So even if you give a vaccine, does it work? Is it protective? This is by definition a new disease. There's an awful lot we don't know about. So at best, it'll be early 2021 that there's a vaccine, and then it'll be months before it isn't widely given. We need to be realistic that it may well be longer. This may be something we learn to live with. The social distancing, the masking is the new normal. We're gonna have to live with it for a while at least. Ideally, early to mid 2021, but that's far from definite.
Before I let you go, Dr. Strom, is that the silver lining, or please tell me there's another silver lining?
Well, the vaccine is the silver lining. A different silver lining would be treatment, because if we can, and that can happen sooner. And in fact, one was just announced today.
Treatments, which is not a vaccine, correct, but a what?
A pill, an injection, a way to be able to make it so if the people who get sick don't get so sick anymore,
okay, then
it's just a cold. Then it's not a big deal. If you can lop off the people who are sickest, and again, there's now at least 2 documented treatments for people who are sickest. If we can develop more and more of these treatments that work better together, it'll be an enormous improvement, because we don't mind getting colds, and we can live with that. The issue is the people who get very sick and die.
Dr. Brian Strom, Chancellor, Rutgers, Biomedical and Health Sciences, and also Executive Vice President for Health Affairs at the great Rutgers University. I'm proud to be an alum. So many other 70,000 students on campus. I'm just one of many. Brian, thank you so much, my friend.
My pleasure. Anytime.